my big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for it is worth
it.
Just focus on the next
Doesn't
step.
matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing
That
something.
is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing
It's a
anything else.
challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to
Oh,
Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think there's
could.
a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I
kids
just
these days,
love
right?
working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about,
hindsight, that
I've
was,
also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
It
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
How are you?
Good. I'm really good. I'm so flattered you asked me to do this. Thank you.
Oh no, all good. Can't wait to hear what you got to say.
I hope it's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll be what you expect, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, this is sounding very cool. It's interesting. So people listening in, maybe they're watching your one first and they've heard this name, Liam. So the reason we really wanted you on, Anna, your third year now, med school, eh? Yeah. So we interviewed Liam. So if people want to go onto our sites and things, they'll see Liam. He's seventh year. He's almost coming out the other end. What interested me about the interview with him was he did when he started, it was the COVID years. So a lot of his testing, a lot of his experience was based around that. And so we want to get a feel, one, how is it different? Then the reason we're doing this whole podcast series is this idea that I know you sat in a room with a laptop and Liam spoke to you. I think at that stage he was obviously a third or fourth year, speaking back to you as a young kid, as a year 13, who you were contemplating med school, and you had that experience of listening to someone and seeking advice. And the thing about the photo I have of you, there were about 5 of you sitting around a laptop listening to 4 of you ended up med school. The 5th one was away that day, and had they been sitting there, so 5 of you, and I think all 5 are still in med school.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty high a very successful ratio, I suppose you'd say. So one, I'm interested in that, how Liam did in that, and then obviously if you can make a similar impact. But for people listening, you were a head girl, you were New Zealand dance maid, you went to nationals twice, you represented the school that you went to, Cambridge High, Waikato, and secondary school swimming. So you were a real avid swimmer. Something around the Adelaide State Champs where you got 6 medals.
Yes.
But then there were some weird things like the Anzac cleaning of headstones of some of the old soldiers, riding for the disabled, where I think you tried to raise $4,000 to allow kids the experience of going to learn how to ride. In the end, raised $6,000. And that was involved around a 24-hour swimathon. So as a kid, I think people are starting to probably get a picture, and I think you swam all day and night. The reason I remember it is my wife's grandmother, who's 96, who went to your school as a young person, went to see what you were doing as an alumni. She went with my daughter. She gave you $100 and she went home and she sat with her granddaughter and was so impressed she came back and gave you another $100.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember.
Yeah.
It was so long ago.
But more than that, the reason I used to love you kids doing a lot of community stuff was one day it might continue. And I know you reached out in your first or second year, I can't remember, and said, look, Mr. Ludlam, I would like to do something more. You'd just been to cure kids, I think, kids with cancer. And then I
Camp Colony.
Yeah, so look, I suppose on behalf of everyone, thank you for the work you do, and the fact that now out of school you're continuing to contribute to make a difference. And maybe that's one of the reasons you got into medicine, I don't know. So anyway, that's your rap sheet from my perspective. Wonderful human. Never taught you, in a sense. I had you in a special class. Oh, no, I did in year 10, did I? Yeah, I
Yeah.
did it in 10. So yeah, and so look, I suppose can you reiterate just your experience of school first and foremost, whether that's primary, secondary? What are your feelings around how that went, what you got into, and what you were strong at, what you were weak at, good, bad, ugly, etc.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. You just reminded me of a lot of stuff that I forgot happened in my life, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I came to high school and I was in one of the mainstream classes, and all my friends were in the top classes. And so year nine was like me working to be in the same class as them for the next year. So I learned how to study, I guess. And that was the year that math was my weakest, and it became my strongest and my favorite. Um, and then for year 10, I got offered to do science and geography and maths a year ahead. And I turned down the math because I knew that I only got the grades I got because I studied, not because I knew anything more than there was. So I would be missing content. And then I just gave it a go with science. And I really hated social studies. So I was said yes to doing geography instead. So that was how I got into like your stream. And then most of like junior high school, I was swimming. And so that would look like for me training, I think it was 4 mornings a week and 3 afternoons a week, something like that. And so I would mostly be going from the pool to school, back to the pool, or just the pool and then school. And I think that if I hadn't been swimming, then I think I would be a very different person right now. That definitely built my discipline and made me realize I can do a lot more than I ever thought I could. But everyone has their swimming, I guess. That was just and then yeah, I guess I don't know, probably you could, as another kid, describe me as like a try hard. Maybe like the goody goody. I never felt like I was doing anything for anyone else but myself, to be honest. I just studied hard and had these crazy goals that I don't really know where they came from. My family have always been so supportive. They've never been like pushing me, wanting me to be more than I am. That was just something that I don't know, I just felt like I needed to do. And then I got involved in dance, and a lot of year 13 for the extension 4 I spent in dance, and I loved that. And then, of course, with the head girl stuff, that came as an absolute surprise. I had really wanted to be head girl, but I didn't think that I would. And I think that was a real flip switch, that people believe in me. And I didn't really know what people saw in me. But I just took that opportunity and found, I guess, what was most important to me. And I loved the community service stuff. That swimathon thing was definitely a highlight. And I couldn't have done it if I wasn't in your class as well. So I'm very grateful for that. But it opened up so many other doors, being head girl, to do more like that. And yeah, that was a great year. I really enjoyed it. And probably mostly because I had done a lot of the subjects earlier. And so I wasn't studying all the time. And if I could go back and say to your students right now, I would say that your grades don't matter. And I wish that I took a chill pill sometimes and didn't care about that excellence so much. It did get me a scholarship, but I'm gonna have massive amounts of debt in the end. I like 20 grand is actually tiny to what it's gonna be. And and I don't have regrets because I am the person I am now because of it. But I would say that you don't ever get those years of life back, and you're just gonna make the most of it. So yeah, obviously you need
What were your strength of subjects, Anna? Just obviously going in school, there's a lot of perception around the subjects. Liam threw a lot of those out the door with his approach, but what were you into, particularly by year 12, 13?
Yeah. I did all the sciences and I did math, and I hated English so much. So I dropped that after year 11. I actually don't know who let me do that because I don't think you're supposed to. And then I did sports science and dance. I think I took a uni paper in the last year for like a leadership one. Yeah, but the only thing that was helpful for pre-med was one of the sales papers in level 2 biology, and I would say chemistry, because that was a core paper in pre-med for Auckland, so you needed to keep the grades up for that, and a lot of it was foundations of high school. And then physics was also very helpful, even though it wasn't a core paper. You still needed to get your grades up, and it meant I could kind of churn through that class, and it was just numbers to help me get through. But there also is the health science option. So sorry, I did biomed, and there's health science as well. You have those two options to get through to medicine with that. And biomed had an extra biology paper and a physics paper, and the health science had 2 pop health papers instead of those 2. So that was more like essay writing, more like history stuff, multi-health, that kind of thing. And because I hated English so much and I just did not like writing, I took the physics option instead. And that was very helpful. I would do that again. I'd take physics and chemistry again. And I think we spoke to you earlier last year. If you hate bio, don't take bio, because there's that one paper in year 12, level 2, that's helpful, but you could do it without it, and like suffering 2 years of it for it to be not even really used, that sucks. Yeah. And it's so different. Yeah.
But I'm not even sure Matteo, who's with you in that group of kids we've talked to, even didn't get much science at all. So
yeah, because it's all about the overall, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, like, I don't know, the equivalent to a GPA in high school.
Yeah.
If you just do what you get good grades in, then you'll be okay.
So Anna, can I take you back to you sitting in a room 12, 13, maybe 10, 11, 12, 13? Where were your thought processes in terms of transitioning out of school when the teacher or whoever would go, so what are you going to be, Anna? Or you go on websites and how did you get, well, obviously eventually you got to, I'm going to med school. Mm-hmm. What else was on the table, and where did that all come from, and where'd you go for help for all of this?
Okay. I would say I think for most of my schooling, I knew I wanted to do something in health, but I had always thought that looked like being a physio. So I had grown up going to my sister's physio appointments since I was quite young. She has cerebral palsy, and she had a big surgery when she was 3. And pretty much because of that, she can walk and kind of run and walk upstairs, and all of this that the doctors told her she would never be able to do. And so I went to all these appointments with her, because they'd mostly be over like the school holidays. And this was probably from like 10 years old onwards, I think. And I loved the physios. They were amazing with her. And I used to do some of the stuff with her at home. And so I just thought that I would love to do that as a career and work with children like that. And then Mr. Newlands was having a conversation with us in year 12 about what we all wanted to do. And I said I wanted to be a physio. And he said something like, really? Is that all? You can do more than that. You can do anything you want, or something like that. And I remember mum going home and telling mum about this conversation, and she was like, that's not a good thing for him to say. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a physio. What's wrong with being a physio? You know? But he didn't at all mean it in that way. And I knew that. And I was just like, whatever, mum, you know? But what he was meaning was like, he believed I had the potential to do more than that. And so I took that as, what do I really want to do? And Katie is the way she is now, not because of the physio, but because of the surgery she had. And so after that was actually the turning point for me. And someone else believed in me more than I believed in myself and saw what I couldn't see. And so I just thought I would try medicine. And I didn't really know what I was signing up for. Like med school this, med school that. I like genuinely had no idea what it was. But after that, I did just make my decision and I wanted to do surgery. And then being in your, yeah. But I think, you said like what websites did I look at and stuff. I didn't really. That wasn't ever my way of like making decisions. I'm not much of a research person, but if we were ever told to like do job searches or whatever, there'd be like Careers NZ site. I'd look at other stuff just for fun, but I think it was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that. So from there, in your class, I know that there's only 2 med schools in the country. So I was looking at Otago and Auckland, and I applied for both of them. And then I had the Zoom call with Liam, and he mostly was talking about the difference between the 2 unis. I went into that one thinking I want to go to Otago. I've never been to South Island. Like, everyone says it's the greatest uni life there is. I feel like I can contest that now too, actually. But that's what I went in with. And then I went out wanting to go to Auckland. And he had, I think
That's an incredible turning point, eh, Anna? Like one.
Yeah. So all of my decisions
will not happen to many humans in their life. One thing.
Well, I reckon it's these 2 things. I think all of this is only because of those 2 people. Yeah. So he had said that Auckland has a rural stream entry that Cambridge High School is within. So I guess you're only competing against people in the rural stream, which is a smaller pool than the general population. And so because Auckland would have all the Aucklanders in the normal general stream, I had a better chance. So I thought. We actually ended up having all the super smart people in our stream anyway. And so I remember considering maybe I don't apply for it, but and just go through general, but I ended up just doing the rural anyway. So there was that reason that I went, and there's also the interview at Auckland, and there's no interviews in Otago. So the interview meant that there was less weight on your grades and less weight on the UCAT. And interviews would be my strength. Like, that's where I would bring my personality and hope that that's what they want. And also in Auckland, they only take 4 of the core papers out of the 8 that you take over the year. And they only use the GPA from those 4 to determine your grades. But Otago takes 7 out of 8, I think, if I remember right. So I guess I took the easy way out, but also, why wouldn't you? I'm so glad I went to Auckland. It suits me really well. And I think the med school life, once you're in medicine, is very different to Otago, and it suits me well. And this is also just word of mouth. I don't really know. And like, I'm sure Otago do it, but like the lecturers, everyone have a bit of a joke about us versus Otago, and sometimes the lecturers are like, oh, we studied over there, but now we're here. And I don't know. There's just like a bit of competition, but it's, you know, healthy competition. And I'm just glad that I had that conversation with Liam because I think I would have had a very different experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So similar to Liam, most people's perspective would be med school, cutthroat, incredibly competitive. I mean, I've heard his side as a young man. I'm not saying there's any sexism or anything, but I'm interested from a young woman's perspective going into med school because I don't know what the breakup is. I don't know what the split's looking like, and whether that competitive thing suits what sort of person or boys or girls. Yeah, can you talk me through just that entrance into what we perceive a pretty cutthroat environment, or is that rubbish?
Yes. Okay. I really struggled in pre-med. I would say it was just short of hell. And I would like to say right up first off that this is only one experience. There are definitely people that had it harder than me, and there are definitely people that had it easier than me. And also, I would do it all again, having the experiences that I have now in medicine and knowing what I'm going to have. It is worth it. And actually, I was just saying the other day, Danny, we had a couple of lecturers come and both of them within the space of 2 hours told us that everything is worth it. And no one has ever said that before, ever. It took 3 years to get to that. And those are the first people who have ever said that. And it was within the space of 2 hours. And honestly, like, I don't know what's yet to come, but so far I'd like to be the one that says that to those people coming in, that it does get better and it's so worth it. Yeah. So anyway, despite how horrible pre-med was, I'd like to say that. And I guess to paint a picture for you,
and it's just the intensity, the amount of is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess to paint the picture for you, I was excited to take a shower. Like, that was my time out for myself. I would get up in the morning and take a shower so that I could be awake. And then at the end of the night, like, taking a shower was what I looked forward to. I felt like if I had the excuse of self-care, then I was fine to not be studying. It got to the point where I would be maybe only doing my washing once a week when I ran out of socks because I don't have time to do my washing, or I was sleeping so badly that I had like an 8-hour playlist on Spotify playing like wave sounds and whatnot, and that was the only way I could get to sleep. And if it stopped, then I would wake up that night. I remember calling Mum in tears one day. I don't even know what it was for, probably just overwhelmed. And my parents drove 3 hours just to give me a hug. I literally saw them for 10 minutes, and Mum had brought me like vitamins and some like sleep herbal remedy stuff that I would start taking, and then they drove home after that because I just didn't have time to see them. I was definitely trying to take care of myself because it's a fact that if you can't be healthy, if you can't help yourself, you can't help other people, right? But I didn't get to the gym as much as I would have liked. And I guess coming from such an active lifestyle, that was really hard to be stuck in a chair. My first semester looked very different to my second semester. And even in that first semester, the first 4 weeks were very different. So I had gone to that very first lecture. I don't think I learned anything. I was so overwhelmed. There was so much going on. They went so fast. People all around me had iPads and they were like scribing on the iPads, and I was trying to figure out how to do this because I just had a laptop and I was feeling so behind and already, and it had been not even 10 minutes. And then they were talking about all these cellular stuff. I just had no idea what was going on. And then I kind of found my feet. Like I went back from that lecture and was just writing out notes like I would in high school. And it took ages. There was so much. I guess it was actually Danny that had me changing the way that I studied, because I suddenly realized, like, I think it must have been around about 4 weeks that
So
all
Danny,
that
the
time.
student who was in your class at school, just to clarify, to
Yeah.
people, just another kid from your school who's at med school.
That's right. Yes. He was in the same halls, and it had been about 4 weeks. We had all these classes, and I hadn't remembered anything. I hadn't like committed anything to memory. Tests were coming up. And he had sat down with me in the study room, and he was talking about flashcards, and I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this before. And I think the next day, that's when I switched everything to flashcards. And honestly, anyone going through medicine, that is the only way you can do it with this sheer amount of content. Yeah, that's the only way. I tried it how I normally would in high school, and ain't no way. There's just nothing. Like, the content of medicine is not hard. Anyone can do it. I genuinely believe that anyone can do it. There is just so much, and that's what gets people. And you just need to have your way of studying and finding that way as early as possible. And I think if I had that conversation with Danny any later, then it might have been too late for me. And I just managed to pick myself up just in time, to be honest. And I did well on those first tests. Yeah, I would also say that pulling an all-nighter is never, ever the answer. Sleep is so important. I did do one all-nighter, and that was the last time I ever would. Yeah, a lot of people turned nocturnal over pre-med, and that was a struggle because we'd still have labs that were compulsory and at a certain time, and so then they'd be waking up after 3 hours and going to this lab and then going back to sleep or whatever, you know. Yeah, so I guess my year was just crazy like that. And that first semester, I didn't go to any classes. I watched them all online because I thought that was more efficient. Just writing up those flashcards as I'm watching the lecture. But it would mean that an hour lecture takes me 2.5, 3 hours to do, because I'm trying to sit there and like piece it all together and go back. And in hindsight, that was probably the worst thing I could have done. And I finally figured that out in the second semester. But the thing is, the first semester we had 3 of those 4 papers, and in the second semester we only had 1 of those core papers. So I could kind of relax a little bit in the second semester. And the first semester is the time where it really counted the most for me to be figuring it all out. But yeah, so I started going to lectures in the second semester, and that meant that I could walk. That meant I got some vitamin D. That meant that I could socialize. And there was such a difference in how I felt, to be honest. I did not feel not human anymore. And I would say that for anyone in any degree, that you're never going to get the uni experience if you're sitting in your room, and no matter what it is, it's never worth it. And genuinely, like, I don't think I would have done as well by the end if I hadn't started going to lectures. But yeah, so that was 2 very different parts of the year. I also we had the UCAT to study for throughout that time. And so that's, I guess, for people listening, a test that you take that's not taught. It's something that you learn yourself. And I think there's like 5 sections, if I remember, and it tests your judgment in situations. It'll be like ethical, moral type ones. It'll test your, like, I think there was some kind of math stuff. There was like reading. I can't even remember, but everyone hated it. And so like each morning I'd wake up and spend half an hour trying to like get my brain into it. Oh yeah, there was this one thing where you had to like recognize patterns, and it would literally be like these random patterns, yeah, and then figure it out and what's the next part or what's missing or whatever. and I hated it so much. But when I sat the test, that was the best score that came out was from that one. But anyway, so there was that going on in the background, and then we would also have like some little assignments for like a group assignment, I think, in pop health. And so over the breaks, over the mid-sem break and the inter-semester break, there was always something to study for, especially that UCAT. And then in the inter-semester break, I had the UCAT coming back in the second semester, I think. So I was studying for that. And stupidly, I thought I would try and get ahead of the game and learn some other stuff for the next semester over the break. And I spent so long. I remember I had this whiteboard and I just wrote everything out on it. And once again, I just fell back into that, like, if I write it once, it'll be fine. La la la. It was a waste of my time, and I didn't get a good rest in that break, and I should have. So that would be another piece of advice. When you don't have to study, you don't study. There's no one that's going to be disadvantaged more than yourself by doing that. And also over the summer before first year, I can't remember if I didn't study or anything. I remember feeling so guilty about it. There's nothing I would have gained out of that if I had of. And in O week, the very first week, we had been told that if you didn't take chemistry, level 3 chemistry, or if you took level 3 chemistry in year 12, then you should do this like online course that's, I think, 50 hours or whatever before semester starts. And so I had, like, being the person I am, didn't open any emails until a week and found that and was like, oh shit, no, I've got 50 hours of chemistry to learn because I did chemistry at level 3 in year 12. And so over a week I was studying, and I still managed to like go out every night and whatever everyone normally does. I didn't miss out or anything, but I was also studying. God knows how I did it, and that was useless. I could have done without that. But I guess when everyone around you is doing something, you feel like you're doing less. That's the hardest part to come to terms with. Yeah.
That would have been good for the school to know if there's schools around the country advancing kids and they know someone's off to med school, whether you did to or not, it probably would have been advisable to just do it in level 3. So it was fresh and not have to do the catch up, to be honest. And I'm not sure your school would have known that. I didn't.
Well, I would say if it's me, it doesn't matter whether I did it in year 12 or year 13. Just give me the summer and I would forget it all again anyway. And that, like, 50 hours was good, but I think we learned it over the chemistry paper anyway. And I could have just done without. Like, I ended up needing to just do it again. So
yeah.
So
at what point did you get through that second year, as first year, and it was hell? Because I know once you're out the other side, you're sort of in, from what I gather.
Absolutely.
At what point during that year did you think, I got a nudge here, I might do this? Or were there times you were like, well, I better start thinking about physio again? When did you feeling you might pass?
I think every single day I was like, I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not smart enough for this. All these people around me, there's people that can do less than me and they're getting better grades than me. There's people that don't even look like they're trying. There's people that are trying harder than me and doing better than me, but I don't feel like I have anything left. I feel like every day I thought I couldn't do it. And I think the only person, I'm sure there were more people, but to me it felt like the only person who truly believed I could do it and truly thought that I would get to the end was my mom. And anytime I ever asked her, I remember thinking, like, maybe I should consider midwifery or paramedicine or something else that's kind of like this. anytime I suggested that, she wouldn't hear of it. She was like, nope, you don't need to think about it. You're like, don't give up. You've got it. And she, like all mums do, is so proud and tell everyone what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And she's a teacher in early childhood education. And some of the parents are anaesthetists or doctors or whatever. And so she was telling them about me. And one of them said, can you tell your daughter not to compare herself to everyone else? And if she's getting B's or B pluses, that's not the end of the world. You can get into medicine with that. I did, or something like that. And the whole time I was kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. I've heard it all before, but there is nothing more true than what those people had said. And I was getting B pluses, and A minus was probably like the maximum. I don't think I ever got an A plus. I ended up on an A for a couple papers, and then A minus for some, and a B plus for one, and everyone else around me, it felt like, was getting A plus, and I was just like, this is it. I have nothing left in me. I don't know what else to do, and I'm not going to make it. And yeah, so I guess this lady was saying, don't compare yourself to other people, and truly that is enough. And she was so right. Like, yes, it is a competition because they're only going to take the best of the best, but that's also what Auckland is really good for, is even some of those people that are the best of the best academically are not going to perform well in an interview. And that's more of a reflection of the real world, where they would struggle with real life patients. And maybe like that's where I think, or I felt that my strengths were. So I have no idea what my interview scores were. We don't get to see that. We don't know what everyone else's is, but that definitely, I think, would have helped me. And I didn't do poorly on the UCAT, and B plus and A minus and A's. That's good. This isn't in a top course, you know. Yeah. So I would say that was definitely a turning point when I finally realized that. And this lady also told Mum to tell me that people play mind games with you and don't listen to what they say. And of course, once again, I was like, yeah, whatever. No, they don't. I would study on the study floor in Waipa, and there was always med students around. And like sometimes if I was just frustrated with something and I couldn't understand it, I would ask someone to help me, and they would explain it to me. And that's how I made a lot of like friends in medicine. And everyone was so supportive. So I was kind of like, it's not like that anymore. People don't play mind games anymore, but they do. And that's just, I guess, how some people cope with it. I'm not like at all yeah, I guess that's just how some people cope with it. But they would say they got better grades than they really did. Or they would start trying to like, I remember hearing about someone who was making a spreadsheet of everyone's grades so that they could figure out who was going to get in or who wasn't going to get in or something like that. And so then after that, someone was like, I ain't telling anyone my grades ever again. And so things like that do happen. And I guess at the end of the day, if people are putting their effort into that and they're not putting their effort into themselves and trying to get into this course, and so really it's shame on them for that. But it's so true. It's your own game. That's all I can say. Yeah, when I finally realized that what this lady was saying was true and still is true for study this, nowadays, that was definitely helpful.
It's kind of reassuring us normal people, not in medicine. If one day we open a door and you're the face behind the person we're about to visit for advice, in terms of medicine, illness, we're really reassured you made it, And I think that interview scenario is exactly what that's about, to be honest. Do I care whether it was a B or a B plus or an A? That's neither here nor there. It's that person who's, I don't know, I'm going to feel comfortable and feel like they're going to do their best for me.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I do remember thinking, and do you know that show, The Good Doctor?
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess for the listeners, it's a medical drama, and the lead is I guess a doctor going into surgery, and he's got autism. It's autism, I think he has. Yeah. And so he doesn't have the social skills or the ability to be empathetic with people, but he was so smart and he always knew exactly what it was. And I remember thinking, if I was a mom and my child had cancer in their brain or something, I just want the best of the best. I don't care if they're rude. I don't care if they're not empathetic. I would want that guy, the good doctor, over the nice doctor. And I always thought that. And so that was like definitely me self-sabotaging as well, thinking I'm not going to be that kind of doctor. I don't have the brains for that. But we actually this year have had lots of lectures where we've got patients coming in to talk to us. So I think generally most weeks we've got one or two. And like, for example, we had someone coming in and sharing their story on gynecological cancer or diabetes or just lots of different things. And not one of them said that the doctor like found the magic mushrooms or whatever. It was all about the person that made the difference was the person that believed in them and the person that listened to them and the person that fought for them when no one else was fighting for them. And they understood what meant the most to this patient. And they made that be the most important thing for them too. So that's when I realized, I guess, I am cut out for this. And even after I made it through, I didn't think I was cut out for this. But listening to that has made me realize that, yeah, I am cut out for this. And that's what I wanted to do in this role. And people do that. And that's where they make the biggest difference. So I guess it is important. And what anyone brings to the table is important. And it's not all about the grades. But yeah, in saying that, what I wanted to do before I went to medicine has completely changed because of it as well. So I had wanted to go into surgery so that I could do that same surgery that my sister had done. But I don't think that's where my strengths are. I think I would have loved it. I would have thrived in it because I have that background connection, and I would have loved to have seen more children have what she has had. But surgery in itself feels like it's not me because there's not as much patient interaction. Half the time the patients sleep on the table, right? And I guess listening to those and obviously just like general in life, you kind of figure out who you are a bit more. I realized I would rather be the one talking to the patients. So now I'm actually thinking about women's health and going into gynecology, obstetrician type roles. And I always thought maybe I would work with children, but I think women's health is where I genuinely love the content that we learn. And it's such a vulnerable, like, precious practice. And I would love to be the person that helps women through those times, I guess. So yeah, this has been a journey and it's still going on. And I'm sure my mind will probably change 1,000 more times, but there's something for everyone in it. I truly believe that. Yeah.
I almost, I won't say this a lot. I almost feel like ending it right here. Like, I could go into your student loans and your halls and whether you're safe as a female when you're in Auckland and all these questions we've asked a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel your gift to us is exactly what you've just said. Like, it really is. And I just, with your sister, your relationship with mum, your struggles, all of these messages is it for me. And I think I'm going to do a disservice asking the shitty questions. Really, actually, they're not for you. I think there'll be kids all around the country contemplating medicine, that experience, maybe thinking about relationships with mum or dad. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I don't have what more to say, but what you've just said is outstanding. So
Okay. Thank you. I'm really glad. I was quite nervous actually. I do want to say one more thing about relationships with your family. And so when I left high school, my family moved from Cambridge to Tauranga, and my brother stayed behind in Cambridge. But so when I went back home over the break, it wasn't to home, it was to this new place. And the first one was renting while they were finding a house, because mum had a job over there. And so that was very different. I was very much like not with friends or anything, which was helpful for the study as well. But also, when you leave for uni, your life is never going to be the same again, and your parents can still stay in the same town. But I think that I really didn't understand that before I left home, and I didn't appreciate my family or spend enough time with them, and I do regret that. You have all your life for your friends. Your friends change throughout the years as well, but your family is always going to be there, and you're never going to live with them like that ever again. So I come home over the summer and I move in again, but I actually don't have a bedroom. I move in with my sister, and I love coming home. I get so excited. My home is where my family is, right? But I do know that my family missed me in that summer before I left, and I do wish that I actually understood where they were coming from. I was just excited to get my life on the road, and yeah, I guess I forgot what's most important to me. So that would be one more thing that I would say, is that you don't forget about your family when you leave. They are so important, and they are your lifeline, especially in times like what I felt in pre-med. It was my mom that came through, my dad that came all that way to see me, and these people are going to love you no matter what. So yeah, that would be another thing.
I'm just thinking of these reels you make, Grace. I don't know how many cuts you could have of quotes. There'll be a book of Anna quotes that they could go.
Oh dear.
And I think Ludlam hit it on the head there. There are obviously the questions about, did you get a student allowance? Did you do that? And there's a time and a place, but I think the tone of this and what you've said, like, it makes me want to go call my parents or something. It's really beautiful. And I think it's going to contribute a lot to those students who are listening, who are thinking, is medicine for me or not, or even that difference between Otago and Auckland for that personality. And I don't know if Otago, we need to find out, Ludlam, if they bring in patients so that you can have that connection. But it sounds like that part of the curriculum has just clicked for you. And I think if you're going to go into women's health, that's wonderful. That makes me very happy to know someone who's going to be in that industry. So the last question I have, and I feel like you're quite a reflective person, if you were to go back to year 12, 13, not generic, but actually you, Anna, what advice would you be giving yourself?
I actually wrote some stuff down last night. So bear with me while I find it.
Take your time.
Okay, I have a couple of things. I think, okay, first I'm going to say that I haven't yet reached the end, and I still don't really know what it is that I'm working so hard for, but I can see what it's looking like. And right now, my life as it is right now is so worth it. I guess after medicine, after pre-med, last year I got back into being really involved. I played football, I played netball, I did swimming again, I did Muay Thai, I picked up the gym, I bought a motorbike, got my motorbike license and started riding. I guess like that's like when you're first moving into a flat with flatmates and learning how to cook for yourself and live for yourself, and it was great. I actually think that last year was the best year of my life up until this year, because it just got even better. And I think I would just want to say that it's so temporary, that pre-med, it's only 24 weeks, literally only 24 weeks. And it felt like so long, but it's so worth it. And you never have to do that again. And if you don't make it into medicine, it's not the end of the world, because so many people go post-grad. Like I think there's more post-grad, definitely more post-grad students anyway. And they're all living life so good too. Yeah. And I think in high school we get taught in like PE, health and PE, the whole to Māori, the 4 walls, and it's like emotional, physical, spiritual, and
Social?
social. Yeah, I think so. There we go. And I have to say that couldn't be more true. And I think only this year I have figured out how important that is. Right now, as of right now, I have never studied so little in my life and got such good grades. My grades are better than they've ever been, and I'm studying so little. And it's because all of those 4 things are there, and it's so important. And I wish that I knew that way back then, because I spent a lot of my life in high school studying, and I think I lost a lot of time, and I could have just realized what was more important, or realized how to study better by doing that. So if all those 4 things were there, then I just feel like I can lock in. And when I lock in, I'm just focused, I'm motivated, I'm disciplined, and it all comes together. And I think I don't want to oversay this, so if you feel like taking this out, then that's so fine. But I have found my faith in Christianity, as in over the last 2 months, and that was that last wall of spirituality for me. I feel like I never really was a spiritual person. I always just believed in science. I think the only like little bit of spirituality I had was that I believed that everything happened for a reason. And so when it was really tough, I just had to tell myself that. And I did, like, genuinely keep telling myself that this all happens for a reason. This all happens for a reason, and I'm struggling for a reason, and it's going to be okay, you know? But I guess finding God and finding Jesus has opened up even more people for me to relate to. And I guess I never realized there was a difference between happiness and joy. And I think overall, I've always been a very happy person. But happiness is fleeting, and happiness, I guess, comes from things that you do. I don't know, like riding the motorbike makes me happy. Going to the gym makes me happy. Friendship, family, whatever, that makes me happy. But I think that since finding my spirituality and my faith in Jesus, I have joy, and it's never not joy. It's not happiness anymore, it's joy. And I guess I can't ever like make everyone believe the same things I believe in, but I would wish everyone to feel this way that I feel all the time, because it's been a complete
We're allowed to clap Grace, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. And it's honestly beautiful. And I just fact checked the 4 orders. It is mental, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, social. And I just thank you for sharing that part. I know it's a really recent like development, but there's that difference between happiness, which is kind of like a short term. You can be happy because you got a cup of coffee, versus joy, which is like that undercurrent that you feel all the time. And I can tell you feel that. And then I'll say one more thing, then I'll let Ludlam wrap up. But you and any listeners could search up Romans 8:18, because I feel like that's a phrase from the Bible that talks about what you're talking about, which is like the suffering you feel now. Yeah, it's like nothing compared to what's coming. So
cool.
That's just very beautiful. So thank you for sharing your whole story with us. That's really awesome.
I'm so thankful I could. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Romans 1 verse 15, for I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. So the fact you share that with us is wicked. And in terms of wishing that feeling on people, you know, it's like when, you know, I sit in the ocean, and sometimes it doesn't matter what the surf's like. It's that it's that spiritual feeling, isn't it? And you found it in Christianity, and I always wish if people understood what I go through with all these surfboards I have every day. It is a religion in a sense, but
Yeah.
look, I'm just going to go back in it. Thank you. I'm glad Liam had an impact. I'm glad your parents, your schools, your friends, all of those people have supported you, and that you made it. Like, obviously your story would have been still cool without it, but the fact you have makes it pretty cool. Let's make a movie out of that. But yeah, thank you for supporting everyone who will listen to this. And there'll be a little girl on the west coast of New Zealand somewhere, or in Gisborne, maybe won't have the same opportunity maybe you had. So maybe listening to this will help them. We would love to catch up with you in a few years if this is still going and sort of see where that goes. But that was special. I don't have much more to say other than take care. And and if people have questions, I'll probably flick them through and see if you. But unbelievable. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
You go.
I'm so sorry, but I just want to emphasize that I am not anyone special. I am just a normal 20-year-old girl who's gone through a general New Zealand life. I feel like I've been very privileged with the family I've grown up in and the life I've grown up in, but I wasn't smart. I'm not smart. I just study hard. I know what I want. And I think one of the questions on your prompts was what kind of person can do this? And from the bottom of my heart, I think absolutely anyone can. It's not hard content. There's just so much. And so if you really want it, you can do it, because it just takes discipline and you need support, I guess. So if you're prepared for that, you can do it. I'm not sure I really knew exactly what I was getting myself into. I did not think it was going to be that hard. But honestly, if I can do it, then anyone can. So that's just the very last thing I want to say.
Wicked. Thank you for your time. Take care, and we'll be in touch. But